Faraday's Mirror, Chapter 14, From the Ashes. Ma'am, Chief Aldrich repeated patiently to Felicity, the boys and me have been all over the wreckage of your place. I know it don't make sense, but let me lay it out for you again. The old policeman stretched his wrinkled hands across the motel room table. We found the bones of a dog in the ashes, but no remains of your boys. He cleared his throat. While it's true that bones can sometimes burn up in the flame, if it's hot enough, teeth don't. And there's no dental material in there either, except a dog's teeth. But, Byron's mother began. The cause of the fire is another thing, the chief continued. It's not electrical, it's not related to the heating system or the oven, it's chemical. Some kind of chemical accelerant residue like napalm in the children's rooms and concentrated in the ash of the upstairs hallway. The chemists are still working on it. Hold on, I must have pushed 2 keys when I opened this up. There we go. The chemists are still working on it. Then it was arson? Charlie asked. He stood behind his wife, his hand on her shoulder. Who started it? We don't know, the chief admitted. I had an arson investigator out there yesterday. There are no foreign tracks headed onto the property and none leading out. If it's arson, why is the complex chemical starter when lighter fluid, gasoline, and kerosene are so cheap? If it's arson, too, we need a suspect and a motive. We have neither. Would anyone want to kidnap your boys? Do your boys have motive to run away? Byron's father looked at his wife. No, to both questions. She nodded her agreement. The bank tells me, the chief said, shuffling some papers, that both boys have drained their accounts. What do you know about that? It's news to me, Charles admitted. But they weren't rich. No one commits arson for a couple $1,000s. Felicity blinked away tears. Cole was working on a project for one of his business customers. He ordered a lot of stuff recently. I'll have to look into that, the chief said. Can I get copies of their latest statements? We'll check on his purchases and see if we can figure out what he's been up to. Maybe he fell in with some bad folk on the internet. I'd like access to their emails. You know their passwords? I know Byron's, Charlie replied. Aldrich handed him a pen and he wrote it for the chief in an open spot on his yellow notepad. Anything else I can do, I will. Anything else I can do, I will, Charles replied. The chief stood up. Look, he said, I promise you we're doing everything we can. This case is puzzling, full of twists and dead ends. We won't quit until we have the answers, even if we have to bring in the FBI. He held out his hand and Charles took it. So, Felicity summed up, if I'm hearing you right, Chief, you're telling me there's a chance, maybe a good chance, that my boys are alive, that my house was attacked, and that they've either been kidnapped or fled? Chief Aldrich turned and pushed up his hat on his white-haired forehead. Ma'am, he said with a sigh, lifting his clipboard off the table, we don't have enough evidence to support any such conclusion, but, he admitted, if it helps, we can't disprove it either. After he left, Felicity and Charlie drove down to the bank, getting copies of the boys' accounts activity and cleared checks. Back in the hotel, Felicity sat at the table going through them page by page. Her husband finished Byron's account summary, walked to the sink, and poured himself a glass of water. After downing it like whiskey, he sat heavily on the creaking bed beneath a faded print of a sugar shack in autumn. Charlie, Felicity said, puzzlement in her tone, Cole's been buying a lot of weird stuff. Metal alloys, magnets, a lot of purchases from electrical suppliers. He was up to something, and it wasn't building a computer. Charles tilted his head. And Byron transferred all of his money into Cole's account, he said. Let's go to the house, she said. Yeah, Charles replied. I think you're right. But they never made it to their property. Halfway there, Felicity sat up straight in her seat. AT&T PersonaLink. What? Cole was really excited about it over the summer. He got it for his business, a cloud server. It saved your data off-site so that if there was a fire damage to your disk, you kept your data. A fire? Yeah, that's how it was marketed. Safe off-site storage. So you think... There's a chance, Felicity replied. A good one. Turn around. Let's go to the library. I need to access the web. Charlie pulled off into a driveway and took the Jeep into a K-turn. It's going to be password protected, he said. You have any ideas? Yeah, a few. But if all else fails, we'll call the company.